So last night when I was sleeping, I had a vision. I haven't had one in a while, so this one kind of caught me off guard. And then something happened afterwards once I woke up that I want to explain to you guys as well that actually bothered me more than what the vision did. Again, I don't know why I'm receiving these. I'm thankful that I am receiving these so that I can warn others. But anything that he shows me in my sleep or in visions has either come to pass or will come to pass. Okay, so he's never given me anything that's not accurate. The only thing that hasn't come to pass yet is the earthquakes. So I know they're coming. I can feel it in the spirit that they're coming. Like, I'm not worried about it. And I know that there's going to be more issues with like tsunamis and hurricanes, like massive issues. I know that that's coming as well. Anyway, last night when I was sleeping, I had this vision where I was I was almost like following people that I didn't know, but I felt comfortable with them. Like I felt comfortable with them in my vision. And I was following them into like the middle of like nowhere. It was like the wilderness almost. One thing that I do remember is everything was like there was no green anything. Like the ground was dust, the trees were dried up, like there was no life like on anything. Like everything was just, I don't know, like burnt up. It kind of looked like it was toasted a little bit. Like there was no green life. And I was following this lady. She didn't have any clothes on, which I noted. And she led me to her like group of people. Like some of them I could tell were her family. I couldn't tell if some of them were, others were a family. It looked like maybe it was like a group of people that had gotten together because, you know, they didn't have anywhere else to go. Anyway, they were all out together in this wilderness and they were around like a fire and they were sitting there. And the one thing that I did notice was they all seemed like they were sucked of energy, and some of them had clothes on, some of them didn't have clothes on. The ones that did have clothes on were really like torn up and ratty. They didn't have much. They had very little with them, like personal belongings. And they told me to come sit. And so I came and sat with them. I had somebody else with me. I don't know who it was, but it was somebody who was traveling with me. And we sat down together, and there was a little girl that was sat next to my friend or whoever was with me. And they were passing around like a tiny little piece of food. Like it wasn't very big at all. And they were all taking like little nibble bites and passing it around. And we all got a little bite. And when my friend handed it to the little girl, she was so weak. She like could barely take it. And she just put it up to her mouth. She didn't even take a bite. And she just like laid down. Like she was just, I don't know how to explain. Just she wanted to just die. Like you could just tell like she wanted to just die. And so I knew that God was showing me some type of famine. This next part is why I'm so emotional. I woke myself up out of this vision because the little girl made me so upset. I'm sorry. As soon as I woke myself up, I co-sleep with my son. He's 2. He was crying in his sleep. He was crying out. He says, Mommy, I'm so hungry. And he was crying. And it freaked me out. My son talks in his sleep all the time. But he was crying out and he was saying, Mommy, I'm so hungry. And this was in like minutes of me waking up from this famine dream. And it shook me. Like I wanted to wake my son up out of his sleep and go make him whatever he wanted to eat last night. Like I'm not even kidding. I was so upset. This is a warning that it is coming.
Shalom. First thing and foremost, when we give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem Rakakadash. I'm going to give double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well. Blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. It was in this gospel of God lifting up the standard of Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. This is a lesson through the spirit. This lady basically having a vision of what she perceived to be a famine. And not only her, man, but people were going through it. People are catching hell. Okay, and people have insecurities about the future because they're seeing the collapse of an economy or an empire as we're at the end of Esau's his rulership, being the final captivity of the Israelites before the kingdom of heaven is set up. We're seeing a breakdown of this system politically, financially. It's already been broken spiritually and morally because, to be honest with you, there was never anything righteous about America anyway when they say that it was founded on Christian principles. Yeah, well, it wasn't founded on the Christianity that they claim to believe in the Bible. It wasn't founded on biblical principles. I'll put it to you that way. All right, so now everybody is on edge and they're bugging out because, you know, there's a new pandemic on the horizon. We have two world leaders in the form of Kamala and Donald Trump, and you got the people that's really divided over this coming selection, which the elites are playing games with the people because they already chose the winner. Okay, they're just giving you people in a diluted state a sense of choice, which you have no choice. And you got this lady here, and she basically stated that she had a vision of the famine hitting the earth, and we understand what the Bible says about pestilence and famines in diverse places, earthquakes in diverse places. So this is the beginning of sorrows, man. Okay, as we know, back in 2020, when they shut the world down from the you know who, we seen global supply chains. We saw halts in global supply chains. We saw a collapse of markets. We've seen trades get. We saw tariffs get put on other nations. We saw inflation. Okay, we saw the transfer of wealth. One of the biggest transfers of wealth in history. We've seen big stockbrokers sell off their stocks and trades and became trillionaires, man. Okay, we've watched a carton of eggs go from 69 cents, from $1.69 to $5 a carton. Eggs and milk, $2.29 of damn near $5 for a gallon of milk. Cheese, bread, cereals, and went up. Everything then went up. Okay, because this was all set up to get you people under a one world government, man, to break this system down, to bring about another government or another rulership, or meaning another rule, which is the NWO. Okay, so with that being said, famine is prophesied to happen in the scriptures, as we're going to go into the dream that Pharaoh had, and basically Joseph had to break down the interpretation thereof. Same thing when in the book of Daniel, when Daniel was given the interpretation, he was able to break down to Nebuchadnezzar at that time as to what was going to befall the kingdoms and those four beasts. Okay, so right now we're living in the end of Babylon the Great. And as the scriptures say, with violence shall Babylon be thrown down, and the saints shall take the kingdom. This is going to be a violent transition with nothing less than bloodshed, man. Okay, it ain't going to be a peaceful transition because Esau is not going down without a fight. Okay, he ain't just going to give his kingdom to Yahushua and skate off into the sunset. No, he's going to fight to keep his kingdom. Okay, and he's going to take as many of you jigs down with him. So right now we got to stand firm, stay in spirit, stay prayed up, and keep watch, man, because we're coming into the times now that Yahushua warned us about over 2,000 years ago. Okay, so as you see on the screen, we have the book of Acts 2:17. And it says it should come to pass in the last days that says the Most High, that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, your old men shall dream dreams. So what we're seeing here is an influx of people that's coming to the internet. They're speaking on the dreams they've had, the visions they've had, because the Lord is pouring out his flesh on all these people, his spirit, Salakia. Now, that doesn't mean that Yahushua is dealing with these individuals personally in a way if he's going to save them. But nonetheless, hey, he's spreading the load across the board because she's not the only one. Okay, you got kids, babies saying that they had visions of the Messiah, and him being a so-called black man. You had one boy saying Abba up, which Abba is the Hebrew word for father. And there's been a lot of strange shit happening. Okay, So this is the book of Genesis 41, and I'm gonna start at verses 1, and this is the New Living Testament. It's called Pharaoh's Dreams. Now I'm not gonna read the whole chapter, as it's pretty lengthy. Okay, but I'm gonna give some points in this, and we're gonna get some points in the Apocrypha, and we're just gonna show you how the scriptures prophesied of these things, man, because famine is a big part of the Lord's judgments, these plagues. Okay. So it says here, Genesis 41:1. It says 2 full years later, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing on the bank of the Nile River. And in his dream, he saw 7 fat, healthy cows come up out of the river and began grazing in the marsh grass. Then he saw 7 more cows come up behind them from the Nile, but these were scrawny and thin. Now these cows stood beside the fat cows on the riverbank. Then the scrawny, thin cows ate the 7 healthy fat cows. And at this point in the dream, Pharaoh woke up. But as he fell asleep again and had a second dream, this time he saw 7 heads of grain, plump and beautiful, growing on a single stalk. Then 7 more heads of grain appeared, but these were shriveled and withered by the east wind. So this was more like a vision. Okay, and contrary to popular opinion, the Lord, he does give other nations visions. Okay, going to the account of, Balaam and Balak, when the Lord showed him the glory, the final glory of our people, when the Messiah came, how basically he told him, he said, well, look, you don't want to curse these people because basically look at these people. They're going to be gods in a new world, and the Lord showed him that. So, yes, heathens can receive visions. Clearly, Pharaoh received one. Then it says here, and these thin heads swallowed up the 7 plump, well-formed heads. Then Pharaoh woke up again and realized it was a dream. And the next morning, Pharaoh was very disturbed by the dreams. So it says, for he called for all the magicians and the wise men of Egypt. And when Pharaoh told them the dreams, not one of them could tell him what they meant. And this is one of the same accounts that was in the book of Daniel. Remember when it says that, roughly paraphrase, not to get the account, but I could just tamper on it real quick. Basically, he was like, Daniel was pretty much the only one that was able to interpret dreams. He said there's a God in heaven that giveth secrets. Okay, and he gave Daniel the spirit to break down dreams. Like you got certain brothers in this thing that have a lot of dreams, man. And they're good at breaking down dreams. And one brother I will remember in particular that have a lot of prophetic and spiritual dreams is the brother Arala out of GMS Chicago. All right, he has a lot of dreams, man, spiritual dreams, and they come to pass because that's the spirit the Lord put on that brother. Okay, certain men don't have dreams and visions. Me, I have dreams and visions in seasons. Sometimes I go a season with prophetic visions and dreams, and then sometimes I go a season without, and lately it's kind of been like an in between. But I think the last vision I've had may have been a couple of months ago when all hell broke loose, Jacob's trouble. The Lord showed me that, just the beginning of it, and then he ended it. But you got certain brothers that don't have dreams at all. Then you got certain brothers that do have a lot of dreams. Like Apostle Tahar, he said he don't really have dreams, but his wife oftentimes gets the dreams and he breaks it down. Now you may ask and say, well, why didn't the Lord just give Apostle Tahar dreams? Well, I mean, that's just how the Lord operates. Okay, we don't fully understand the mind of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai to know why he picks and chooses. But, I mean, hey, it is what it is because it's a body. It's a collective effort. But anyway, it says here, so the next morning, Pharaoh was very disturbed by the dream, so he called for all the magicians and the wise men of Egypt. And when Pharaoh told them his dreams, not one of them could not one of them could tell him what they meant. But finally, the king's chief cupbearer spoke up. Today I have been reminded of all my Pharaoh, you told Pharaoh, and some time ago you were angry with the chief baker and me, and you imprisoned us in the palace of the captain and the guard. One night, the chief baker and I each had a dream, and each dream had its own meaning. And that was a young Hebrew man, which they're talking about Joseph, with us in prison, who was a slave of the captain of the guard. And we told him our dreams, and he told us what each of our dreams meant. And everything that happened just as he predicted, meaning because Joseph was a prophet, okay? And it says, and the chief baker was executed and impaled on a pole. So Pharaoh sent for Joseph at once, and he was quickly brought from the prison. And after he shaved and changed his clothes, he went in and stood before Pharaoh. And then Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I had a dream last night, and no one here can tell me what it means. But I've heard that when you hear about a dream, you can interpret it. It says, it is beyond my power to do this, Joseph replied, but the Most High can tell you what it means and set you at ease. So Pharaoh told Joseph his dream, and it says, and in my dream, he said, I was standing on the bank of the Nile River, and I saw 7 fat, healthy cows come up out of the river and begin grazing in the marsh grass. But then I saw 7 sick-looking cows, scrawny and thin, and came up after them, and I've never seen such sorry-looking animals in all the land of Egypt. These thin, scrawny cows ate the 7 fat cows, but afterwards you wouldn't have known it because they were still thin and scrawny before then I woke up. Then I fell asleep again, and I had another dream, and this time I saw 7 heads of grain, full and beautiful, growing on a single stalk. Then 7 more heads of grain appeared, but were blighted, shriveled, and withered by the east wind. And shriveled heads swallowed the healthy heads, and I told these dreams to the magicians, but no one can tell me what they meant. So Joseph responded, both of Pharaoh's dreams mean the same thing. It says the power is telling Pharaoh in advance what he is about to do, because the Lord said that he gives his secrets. I mean, the Lord said before, roughly paraphrasing, says, before these things declare, I tell you of them. And usually when the Lord deals with the prophets, he deals with them in the form of dreams, or he give them just an outright vision. Okay, today, I mean, brothers do have visions, you know, but the Most High dealt directly with the prophets at that time. They didn't have YouTube or all this other stuff. But now he's dealing with us through what's already written in the word and through his spirit. But it says, but the 7 healthy cows and 7 healthy heads of grain both represent 7 years of prosperity. And the 7 thin, scrawny cows that came up later with 7 thin heads of grain, withered by the east wind, represent 7 years of famine. Okay, and it says, and this was happened just as I have described it, for the power has revealed to Pharaoh in advance of what he's about to do. So the next 7 years will be a period of great prosperity throughout the land of Egypt. And we know that America has seen prosperity since it's become a nation. And now that at the end of that prosperity, through all the economic downturns and all the stock market collapses, even the Great Depression, David was able to bounce back from and to live in what they would call the green tree. But now, hey, we're seeing things are halted. Certain goods they're out of stock. A lot of shit is not even being stocked back on shelves, man. Okay, they're recycling things. Like if you look at some of these grocery stores, they had so much of a shortage on particular products to the point they was replacing it with artificial shit, man, because they just couldn't get the product. Okay, supply and demand. But it reads, and it says in the next, but afterward there will be 7 years of famine, so great that all the prosperity will be forgotten in Egypt. Famine will destroy the land, and this famine will be so severe that even a memory of the good years will be erased. So that's heavy, man. Okay, and like we said, when America collapses financially, all the time of the baby boomers and, you know, the gold rush and all this other shit, it's going to make it look like it never happened. Okay, like these $1 million Edomites, these $1 billion Edomites, I say the $1 million Edomites because the billionaires would take a hit. But even then, a lot of those billionaires are lower level luminaries, so they'll be well off. But you typical middle class folks, like you rich Edomites, man, you private business owners, and you know you guys that work in the private sector, people like you know the common people that work the 9 to 5s. Hey man, you gonna forget that you even had a dime in your pocket. It's gonna get so bad, and we already know when famine sets in, and this is when chaos ensues because when there's no food. And you go hungry, oh motherfuckers, they gonna be out here they gonna be on the prowl. Okay, they gonna go door to door looking for food. And when you don't have food in your stomach, hey, your mind turns on and you do strange shit. Okay, I just put it to you that way. People start looking like food, man. And this is why she said in the vision, she said the little girl was so famished to the point she didn't even have the strength to chew out food. And that takes me back to the time of 70 AD. When the Romans rolled on us and then they sealed off the cities, they stopped any produce from coming into the city, you know, anything that was worth trading. And then they sealed off the cities and entrenched everybody in to the point people turned on each other. And you can read about that in the Josephus. Okay, it said it was so bad that Jake was eating their garments. They was eating the leather buckles off their garments to the point they was eating their kids, man. And cannibalism is coming back in a huge way, especially with these people here. In America, these people do any goddamn thing for food. So it ain't nothing for them to eat their children. Okay, that's gonna be like a day in the park. Little rally rail gonna be looking like that. Gonna look like that smothered pork chop you niggas like to eat with gravy and white rice. You're going to eat that little ninja, you know? But this is Genesis 47, and I'm going to start at verses 13. It says, meanwhile, the famine became so severe that all the food was used up, and the people were starving throughout the land of Egypt and Canaan. And we know that the scriptures say that the things that were written for are things that were written in the past were written for our learning today. So we understand through history and how first Egypt collapsed, the Most High said that he was going to hit Egypt with plagues before. Okay, so just imagine, you had what? I think you had Goshen. Egypt was surrounded by a few provinces, with Egypt being the capital, right? But then you got America, which is 50 provinces, which a province is just another way of saying like a state or a jurisdiction. Okay, which America is technically one big city, but they're broken up into what they call like city states, by a particular state lines. But there's no particular borders or there's no walls. So technically it's one big city, But it says here, and it says, by selling grain to the people, Joseph eventually collected the money in Egypt and Canaan when he put the money in Pharaoh's treasury. And when the people of Egypt and Canaan ran out of money, Salakia, all the Egyptians came to Joseph. Our money is gone, they cried, but give us food or we would die before your very eyes. Okay, so that's the point. The famine got so bad to the point people was willing to give their allegiance over to a higher power, man. And it's the same thing with this whole new coming shutdown, if it ever makes it to that point. Because we know the scriptures talk about famines and pestilence. And now the WHO, they have affairs over your health conditions now. They have the sovereignty to make the choice on whether you can do what you got to do. If they want to mass jab everybody under the health regulations and emergency parameters, they can do that. Slovakia, man, these are allergies. So that clearly could be the case. Okay. Matter of fact, let me do this real quick. Scripture says famine. Scripture says you rather die by famine than a sword. Find that real quick. Yeah, the scriptures goes into it's better to perish. Oh, that may be I think that's in the Apocrypha. Yeah, that may be in the Apocrypha. Give me a second. Hunger and sword. It's better to perish from the sword than die of hunger. Let me see. Yeah, Lamentations 4:9. It says, they that be slain with a sword are better than they that be slain with hunger. For these pine away, stricken throughout for the want of the fruits of the field. Yeah. Because when you have famine, that's a slow death, man. Like when you see those commercials of Esau trying to promote to send money to those different countries in Africa and shit like that. You see the little boy with the big head, but his ribs are touching his back. A lot of times they don't even send that money over there. Esau pockets that shit for his charity groups. But a person in that condition, which famish just means being hungered. When you're in that condition as a person, that's a painful death, because what happens is your body starts to eat itself. Okay, and the body can go days and weeks without food. So that's a painful death. You get weak, you get lethargic, you start to hallucinate, and anything that you see looks like food, to the point you would see a ceramic bowl and that shit look like a bowl of grits, and you would just eat the ceramic bowl, man, because you're that goddamn hungry to satisfy your bowels. So it's gonna get real bad out here, man. And these people, they don't even see, and they see it, but the American people, they're so lackadaisical to the point, that would never happen here to us. Or that could never happen. But hey, let's see what the scriptures say about that. Because hey, you're like literally like what they say 3 days of supply in a grocery store, and the average person only got like maybe 2-3 days of groceries. And people used to get what they say, you get 2 weeks to a month worth of groceries. But now the average person don't even afford a fucking day or two worth of groceries, man. Like most people that buy groceries, they just shop day by day. They don't even get everything they need because they can't afford it. But yeah, you got migrants over here that's getting $10,000 a month on food stamp, on EBT or whatever you want to call it, $4,000 in cash, $10,000 to put food in their house. But yeah, you Americans are working paycheck to paycheck, and a bag of groceries cost your ass $60, man. For 2 cartons of eggs, some milk, some cheese, and some butter, that's $60. And you paying for the goddamn bag on top of it, which is another $5. You know. But anyway, this is the book of Joel 1, and I'm gonna start at verses 7. Matter of fact, let's start at verses 9. It says, the meat offering and the drink offering is cut off from the house of the Lord, and the priests and the Lord's ministers mourn. But the field is wasted, the land mourneth. For the corn is wasted, and new wine is dried up, in the oil language, man, okay? So there you go. The field is wasted, meaning crops, the storms are destroying everything, man. Like, for whatever reason, you will have 85-degree weather, which is pretty comfortable, but yet, for whatever reason, these sun rays have just been extra, just like hella hot, man. It could be 75 degrees outside, but yet the rays from the sun is beaming down. It's literally like Esau was spraying, or he's doing something to the atmosphere. You know, like I remember they had that saying back in the day. They said, oh yeah, there's a hole in the ozone layer, which the atmosphere, the ozone layer, or firmament, whatever you want to call it, it feels like the barrier, the ozone layer, or the firmament, or what you would consider the atmosphere, is getting a lot thinner, because now you can feel the rays of the sun. It's even more, how can I say it? It's more, you can feel the rays. It feels like it's more heat now. You know, the sun is a lot hotter because they're spraying all that shit up there, you know. But it says here, be ye ashamed, O ye husbandmen, how, O ye vine dressers, for the wheat and the barley, because the harvest of the field is perished. Yeah. So your grocery stores, your trucks, they gonna get rations to ship things out. And in order for them to push that micro C-hip down your throat, they gonna hold the food over you, because it's not that it's gonna be like a actual shortage of food. They're just gonna be hoarding everything, meaning they're not gonna supply. They're not gonna restock the shelves. They're not gonna allow the trucks to come in and restock these particular stores. You know, they're just gonna delegate things through their authority and through their social class systems. And if you're a bad standing, you ain't gonna get your box of Wheaties for the day. You know, they may give your ass slop in a jar or something like that, but you people getting ready to starve to death. And somebody say, well, y'all gonna starve too. That's not true, because the scriptures say in famine we should be satisfied. So we ain't worried about it, man. We know the Lord is gonna take care of us like he always does. But it reads here, it says, the wine is dried up, and the fig tree language, and the pomegranate tree, the palm tree, and also the apple tree. Even all the trees of the field are withered, because joy is withered away from the sons of men. Okay? Going down to verse 14, it says, sanctify ye a fast, call a solemn assembly, gather the elders and the inhabitants of the land into your houses of the Lord your power, and cry unto Yahweh. And this is what we're doing. We're crying to the Lord, man, to keep us safe in that day. And it says, alas, for the day of Yahweh is at hand, and it destruction from the Almighty shall it come. It says, is not the meat cut off before our eyes? Yea, joy and gladness from the house of our power. And it reads, the seed is rotten under their clods, and the gardens are laid desolate, and the barns are broken down, for the corn is withered. Okay, because the food shortages. But how do the beasts groan? The herds of the cattle are perplexed, because they have no pasture. Yea, the flocks of sheep are made desolate. But, O Yahweh, I will cry to thee, for the fire have devoured the pastures of the wilderness, and the flame that have burned all the trees of the field. And the beasts of the field also cry unto thee, for the rivers and waters are dried up, and the fire have devoured the pastures of the wilderness, man, to the point, hey, these animals, they gonna start eating people. When people are dying, because one thing about it, famine brings about pestilence, because when people die and their body rots, diseases, that's when disease sets in. And then those dead carcasses, those animals are going to come from their habitations, and they're going to dwell among these cities, these neighborhoods, and they're going to be eating people, man. Eating dead carcasses, eating live carcasses, you know, eating each other. And the stench of this place is just going to be unbearable. So, hey, man, those of you out there that think that Yahweh Shai is playing games, he's not playing games anymore, man. Okay, the Lord is sick and tired of this goddamn place with you people in it. All right, verse 15, 2nd Ezra 15, verses 4. For all the unfaithful should die in their unfaithfulness. But behold, says the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, sword, famine, death, and destruction. For wickedness have exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their truthful work and their hurtful works are fulfilled. So therefore, thus says Yahweh, I will hold my tongue no more touching their wickedness which they profanely commit, neither would I suffer them in those things which they wickedly exercise themselves. But behold, the innocent and righteous blood cried unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually, man. Okay, and when you go down here, verse 11, it says, the Most High will smite Egypt with plagues as before. So, yeah, man, this famine is among us. Famine, pestilence, earthquakes, economic collapse. All these things are going to happen simultaneously. And Lord's will, they start to happen at a more accelerated rate because we're seeing a collapse. But, you can still go to work. You can still move around. But it's going to come a time that, all this that we lived for, we worked for, it's going to be gone in a moment's eye. Okay, so with that, all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Lord's will, you will edify into the next lesson.